everybody. Welcome to the last episode of 2023 of Nobody Asked Us with Des and Kara, presented by TCS. Des, we made it through a year of podcasting. We just realized that as of our recording right now, we are only a few days off of our 1-year anniversary of when we recorded our first episodes.
Can't believe it's been a whole year. Do you feel like we're friends now?
I mean, I do.
I was going to put you on the spot there and be like, oh, I don't know yet. I'm not sure if I can trust you
it out.
with information.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's kind of funny for people to know. We just spent 50 minutes talking before we started recording about nothing that we're going to talk about today. But I feel like those are friends.
Yeah, we got into some good stuff. And I think potential episodes in the future, we're making a content bank. We're getting into the weeds. So it's good stuff. I think that the future is bright for Nobody Asked Us.
The future is bright.
And all the topics we dug into, nobody asked our opinion on.
Nobody did. And we just keep offering it.
Yeah.
So it was about a year ago, a little over a year ago, that we recorded our first 2 episodes. I'm trying to think. It was after we recorded them that I found the intro music.
Sassy.
So if you hate our intro music, you can blame that on me.
But I think it's great.
I think it's great.
If you're just putting it out large to the audience, I think they can weigh in on the YouTube, give us their opinion on Sassy.
Yeah.
I think we're very flexible. We're willing to change if people are just like, totally hate it. But Sassy, I think, has been a really great fit.
I think so too. And we just found out that we are approaching 1 million downloads. This will be episode 27, this is episode 27. And we're at over 900,000 downloads, which is kind of mind-blowing that people are listening to us and downloading.
I think it's really funny because, people will be caught up on your life. I was on a phone call the other day with a friend, and she's like, I bet people don't have to ask you how things are going or what's going on anymore because they just listen to the podcast. And I'm like, I forget people listen to this, and I just say stuff that I probably shouldn't. And people know way too much about me.
Yeah.
I just put it out there because I'm really just having a conversation with you.
I know. People do know a lot about us. I have a lot of people that are like, hey, how's that lever machine working? Hey, how's Des recovery going? Hey, because they listen to the pod. So thanks for listening.
Yeah.
We're going to keep going year 2. But this is the last episode of 2023. We just kind of wanted to look back at the year and just, have a conversation.
I think we can break it up into athletic portion. We can talk about racing, things we liked, things we didn't like, events we remember. And then if you want to talk about life stuff, I think we both put out books this year. That was crazy, interesting. We could talk about those again. Before we get into any of this, can you just give us the recap on Colt's cross country race? I've been waiting to hear this. I got on a little late today and I got little snippets, so I just want to hear the whole thing.
Okay, I just want to say that Des is legitimately a fan of Colt's. It's super cute. And she believes in him so much. And yeah, so he had his last race. His goal was to be top 100. There was 460 kids, I think, in his race. But his big goal was to run under 14 minutes for 4K. And so he ran an awesome race. He moved up throughout the race. And he ran 13:42, which I actually can't believe. And he was 129th place. So he didn't get that place goal, but he didn't care because he was so pumped with his time. It was awesome. His team, their best runner had been sick all week. And I was really proud of him for finishing because usually he's up front fighting for, one of the lead positions overall. And he was significantly back, one of our last finishers for the Boulder Mountain Warriors, but he kept going. And so I just felt like that I was really proud of him. So shout out to Zach Bean. That was awesome to see him finish. But aside from Zach, everybody else PR'd on the team. It was just a great way to end the year. Colt had a 32-second PR. 2 of his teammates PR'd by over a minute, but everyone PR'd. And so what can you do? You can't do any better than that, And so it was just an awesome season and really cool that, he was into it this year, and it was really fun to see him progress. It was wild. I can't believe he started the season a little over 16 minutes and he ended the season at 1342, and that all happened in 2 months and 3 runs a week.
That's
And so
wild.
yeah, I was really happy for him. He had a lot of fun, and the meet was organized really well. There was like plenty of parking and really spectator friendly course, so it
How
was
much
fun
was
for
the
all of
t-shirt?
us. The t-shirt. So yeah,
What
it
was the
was a little
price?
cheaper this year, actually.
Okay.
He got a sweatshirt that had his name on the back. So like they list the kids
Nice.
that are running. It's all alphabetical. And then he got cross country on one sleeve and just like the USATF thing across the front. And I think because he only got 3 things put on it, this year's only $88.
Big saving. Maybe it was your USATF card gave you a discount or something.
Definitely not. No, that's not a thing. There was no discounts given.
Dang,
So
I thought
I
like
felt like we
10%
got
off.
yeah. Last year he had about 5 things put on his shirt, and it was $100. So I felt like wow, like when I was checking out, it had a thing for tip, and I went to tip because I was like, it's so cheap, and then I was like, what am I doing? I'm still paying $88 for this thing. But yeah, it's crazy how expensive that stuff is. But yeah, it was worth it. He has a sweatshirt. He's worn it like every day. It smells. It's awesome. He's proud of it.
That's cool. Love it.
But
I'm
yeah,
so excited to hear about his season, his general joy for it, and to be honest, his latest Margot picture was really exciting too. I think she was getting her nails done, so
she
it's
was.
always fun to keep up on Colt. I think this stuff's important for me.
Well, that's one thing I was going to bring up, that we both got new family members this year, and for us it was
Mm-hmm.
Margot. And yes, Colt soaked her yesterday, and then also cut her nails. So he said that she had a spa day.
What
But
happens
you
with
got
the soaking? Sorry, this is a totally different thing.
it's nothing bad. The only bad thing
Okay,
that might happen is sometimes she'll poop in it in the water.
yeah,
But
you get
she really
relaxed.
loves to just like soak in warm water, and you're supposed to do it a couple times a week, and it hadn't been done in a while. So he just has this big Tupperware thing and he fills it with warm water, and she just hangs out in it. She just loves it. She didn't poop in it yesterday, which was great. And then
Good
sometimes you
spa
can
day.
rub her with a little toothbrush if she's a little dirty, but
Scratch the
yeah,
back.
that's it. Just soaking. Yeah. And he cut her claws afterwards.
That is a spa day. That's amazing.
Okay, but
Pampered.
you got a new family member this year as well, which is a
Yeah,
little bit cuter, a little bit cuddlier.
he's very cuddly. Okay, so I guess for an up this year, definitely getting Rivers was awesome. He's such a different pup than any of our other pups. He's been like the easiest puppy we've had to manage. He's not very motivated to do anything. Like the other day, he did go down to the water and watch the birds, and I was like, "Oh, cool!" He's like starting to get his birdiness. Like maybe he's going to
Yeah.
be interested in this, which is great because most of the time he just wants to sit on the couch and cuddle. But yeah, so that was exciting to see him be motivated for something. He's been pretty easy. He also likes to eat sticks. Like he brings in the biggest sticks in the house. You're like that. I can't even. I'm not supposed to have these in here, but he just loves them. So I'm like, fine, whatever. So yesterday I was like, oh, I can run on the treadmill for 30 minutes. He's been really good. I think he can manage 30 minutes without supervision in the house because we crate him most of the time when we're gone. I come back from my run and I swear to fucking God, he ate my hairbrush. It's like the first time you've had 30 minutes alone, he ate my hairbrush. And if I'm in his defense, if I'm being totally honest, I'm going to hold on 1 second.
Okay. She's going to grab something. She's getting up and leaving. Oh, she's already back. Oh, yeah. He ate her hairbrush. He ate the handle right off.
But in his defense, like it looks just like a stick. So I was
It
like, well,
does.
you know what? If this is the worst you're going to do, we don't know if that's true or not yet, but so far,
Okay.
he just
Actually,
ate
show
another
that
stick.
hairbrush again.
His paddle.
It's so big. It's bigger than
this,
your head.
this is like, I think it's a perspective.
Okay, I'm just realizing that you like things super sized. And I'm not trying to be mean, but you're kind of a small person. And you have this giant one.
This is the biggest espresso cup ever made. It's the perspective. It must be.
No, hold that
It
brush
could
next to
the
your
brush is
face. It's bigger than your
yeah,
head.
it's pretty big. But I only like this is time efficient. 3 swipes, you're done. I don't
Okay,
really
that's
brush my
fair.
hair that often anyways, so I have a
Okay.
dreadlock, right? I was gonna go down a path, but I'm not even gonna do it. So because
Do
honestly,
it.
size doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
Do you watch the
Okay.
morning show?
Yes.
Great show.
It
Do
is a great
you
show.
do you know about John Hamm?
Yes. Thank you so much for bringing this up because because I because it's all I could think about when he got on the show. And did you find yourself looking?
Yeah, you have to. I had watched the whole show and then I had heard this story, and I was like, "No, that's not true." And my sister was like, "No, Google it." I'm like, "I'm not going to
It's
put
true.
that into the Googles because if I do that, all of my targeted ads are going to change dramatically." And she's like, "You have to look it up," and I did, and now my ads are way different. But I was like, "How can I put this in a polite way that's not going to get me raunchy? Maybe it'll be like classy targeted ads."
Yeah, no.
But didn't work.
Okay, so yeah, so Google it, people. There's also this. I don't know. I shouldn't talk about this. No, we should just move on. Okay.
No, can of worms. You started this.
Okay. So I got in a fight with my mom because this actor on SVU, Christopher, I think it's Maloney, he
Okay.
also has a body part that's well endowed. His is his buttocks.
Oh,
And
okay.
my mom was like, that's not true. I've watched that show my whole life. I would have known. And so then I was like pulling it up on the internet
You got to see this.
and showing her pictures. And she's like, those have been doctored.
That's great.
So all of that stuff's in my Google Des, all of it.
Okay. Yeah, no, and sometimes you just have to put that in there to make up for, other searches. Yeah, no, it was because of this.
Yeah, totally. Okay, now that we're on the morning show and we were never going to talk about this, who is your favorite character on there?
Oh, what
Or
a
do you
great
have
show.
one?
It's like there's so many people who are great personalities. Who's
Except for they're
the
all evil.
Oh, totally. I actually
Yeah.
really like Corey, as annoying as he is like one of my favorite.
That's Adam's favorite. He
Yeah.
loves him.
He's like a great villain. Because he's a
Yeah.
villain for sure, but
Yeah. But they're all just so selfish and they make me all go crazy, but yet I can't stop watching it.
yeah, it's a great show.
It's really good. If you guys haven't watched it, check it out. The morning show. It's not at all what I thought it was going to be about. I thought it was going to be a comedy when we first started watching it. And it's not.
Apple Plus. You'll need a subscription, but there's probably a free 30 days and you'll get through it in 30
and just
days.
get through it. Yeah. Okay.
And then unsubscribe.
And then
so you can read through the banners.
Mm-hmm. Then you're good. Okay. Wow. We really are veering. So
back on track.
Back on track. Okay. So should we talk about some of the more memorable athletic feats of the year?
I think we should. Marathon or track? Where do you want to start?
Let's start with the track.
Okay. You're the track expert. Fire away.
I know. Well, so this year as a track fan, it was a bonkers year for distance. There was, Faith Kipyegon herself broke 3 world records, 1,500 mile, 5,000. But then in the last meet of the year, Gudafsagai broke Faith's 5,000 meter record and came agonizing close to running under 14 minutes. But unlike Colt, instead of 4,000 meters, she was running 5,000 meters. And it was totally wild. And then on the men's side, we saw a world record in the steeple. And I want to say Ingebrigtsen got one. It must have been in the 2 mile outdoor. It had to be the 2 mile. But times were crazy this year. And I know we talked about this, so if you guys have listened, you've heard, but the times were crazy this year. But for me, the standout race was the men's 1,500.
Yep.
Yeah, it was just so good.
Always been teeing up for that to be the most exciting race of the year. And then even like the aftermath, going back into the Diamond League, like,
yes,
how do you come back? How do you bounce back if after Ingebrigtsen has been the favorite and, so on and so forth. And then, Josh hitting the road mile, that was wild. So that group of characters is just, they're so good. And I think that, that's it's such a fun event because people can break into that group really easily. It seems like
it's
like
cool
last year. Would you have been talking about Nagoose? I mean,
No,
kind of, but not in the way that we are
not in the way
now.
you're talking
They
about
would
now.
now.
No, at that point, his teammate Ollie Horse seemed more like the person who was going to break through, right? And that's it.
Hmm.
Like that's another person who just lit it up this year, Nagoose. He set multiple American records indoors. He was barely off the world record in the mile indoors. I thought he was going to win a medal at Worlds. I think
Yeah.
his lack of experience is all that was against him in that situation. You know, he just didn't get off the line quick enough, and he found himself. I mean, again, I'm recalling something that happened this summer, so if I'm wrong on the exact facts, let
You're
it
going to
slide,
get
please.
absolutely roasted.
Yeah. But
Because
as
that's
I
how the internet
recall,
works.
it was back in August and lots happened since then. But as I recall, he wasn't off the line that quick. And he found himself kind of boxed in. And then he spent a lot of the race working his way up. And then when the kicking went, he wasn't there. But he kind of righted that wrong as soon as that race was over, the next race. And then, of course, at Prefontaine, he that was a full mile, him
Hmm.
versus Ingebrigtsen, and
Yeah.
he broke the American record, and they were just like gutting it out. I mean, Ingebrigtsen, to be fair, was the clear winner of that, but that was the closest we've seen anyone to him
That's
aside
just
when
in it.
Josh
Yeah.
Kerr beat him at Worlds. So
He kept it really honest. Like it was a real race for a very long time.
yeah, and I think like they all kind of chirp about each other,
Yeah.
which I think is kind of fun. Like, you know, we all have accepted that Ingebrigtsen's quote unquote cocky. And I mean, he is. Like, he's confident. He knows who he is. He says stuff that you can't believe he said it, but then he backs it up. And then now we have Josh Kerr talking a little bit of smack too, again, saying, but backing things up. And then we've even heard Nagu say a few things. So I think this little rivalry is pretty cool. And then not to mention that the world champion from 2021 or
Hmm.
2022. Jake Whiteman was injured last year, but he, won in 2022 and was, I want to say, in the top 6, maybe even top 5 at the Olympics. So it's a crazy group of people. And this is not to discredit Faith Kipyegon, who won. She won the 15 for, I can't remember now, record breaking like third time or something. And she's also won the Olympics twice. And then she won the 5,000 at World Champs. But her victories were so dominant that it was exciting. But it was like, oh, Faith's moving. Now we get to watch. We're watching history. This is so exciting. We're seeing history happen. Where the men, you were like, really didn't know. When they came off that corner, it was like, you really didn't know what was going to happen. So I think
Yeah.
that'll go
It
right into 2024.
it was a bit more edge of your seat where
Mm-hmm.
it was Faith versus the clock, which is exciting, but and we've been hammering this home all year, like you want to watch the players really match up against each other,
Yeah.
and the clock's the afterthought, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that was totally the world championships in the men's 15. It was like nobody was like, what time did Josh run? It's like, who
Right,
cares?
right. Who cares? Yeah. No, it was awesome. So I think all of those storylines that were so exciting this year, they go right into 2024. We'll be talking more about the men's 1500. We'll be talking about Faith, maybe Sagai versus Kipyegon now, since she ran that 14-minute 5K, which will be interesting. So, and then of course, this will take us into the marathon too. But Safan Hassan in her triple at the World Track and Field Championships, sandwiched between winning her debut London marathon, her debut marathon at London, and then winning Chicago. Nuts.
Yeah, that was bananas. Like, I'm gonna run the 10,000 meters on the track, and then I got to go get my marathon work in after the race. Did not take her foot off the gas. That was pretty wild
No.
to
Do you think
see.
she's just like chilling right now? Do you think she took time off after Chicago?
I don't even want to know what chilling is for her. Like, I just think it's probably bananas. Like, I don't. She's probably doing something crazy. Even if she's chilling, she's probably like riding a motorcycle at 140 miles an hour or something, right? Like, it's something is just adrenaline there that she needs
Yeah.
that, because I don't know why you would make a schedule like that unless you needed your fix.
Right.
Like,
I know.
so I don't know what she's doing on her time off, but it's probably crazy.
I
Or she
know.
doesn't take any at all.
Right. I mean, maybe, I don't know. There are world indoor champs this year. Maybe she'll run that. Maybe she'll run a marathon. It seems like she should run the marathon at the Olympics. Seems like it'd be pretty
Yeah.
tough to beat her. I mean, if you're Safan Hassan and you're looking at the Olympics and you're like, I want a gold medal at the Olympics, that's like the one thing I don't have. But also, Helen Obiri is saying, I want a gold medal at the Olympics. That's the one thing I don't have. Helen Obiri and Safan have won world championships. They won all these things, but are you going for the Helen Obiri said she's all in on the marathon. If you're Safan Hassan, are you all in on the marathon or are you going to still run the 10 and the 5 and the 15?
Just in case he's.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Safan Hassan already has Olympic gold medals, right? Because in Tokyo
What's the
she won
schedule? I guess.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But she won the 10 and the 5 in Tokyo. So I guess she already has a couple of gold medals, but
Boring.
I don't think she can beat Faith on the track.
Yeah, I think that's kind of
Faith's
out of
just
reach.
at a new level now.
Yeah.
So then she has to go against Obiri, who has proven to be a crazy force in the marathon. Although we haven't seen her in a flat, fast marathon, but Paris is going to be
Paris
hilly, right?
Yeah. Yep. Which is not to say that Hassan won't be great on the
Right.
hills, right?
It's true.
She just hasn't done it yet. But she's also, I mean, I don't feel like she's really been all out in a marathon yet. I mean, I feel
No.
like she's still sort of figuring out the event and putting pieces together. Like, I don't think we've watched her connect all the dots. I think it's still pretty fresh. But I guess the same thing could be said for Obiri.
Yeah, I feel like she has one extra marathon under her belt, right? Because she debuted
Yeah.
in New York, then she won Boston, then she won New York. I do feel like Hassan is still totally figuring that out. Remember her first marathon, she stopped and stretched because she had a side stitch.
Of course. Because why wouldn't you? She had time.
And she waited and kind of won it in a kick. And then in Chicago, she took the lead earlier out than that. So I think she's still learning it too. But Obiri is too. I mean, I think in Boston and in New York, we saw her just play it really patiently and wait, and then strike right towards the end. So
So
it's going
here's
to
an
be a good matchup.
interesting question, because you hear it all the time. Like, when you get down to the last mile or maybe half mile in the marathon and the two people are there, and it's like, back in the day, it would be like, oh, the fastest person, the one with the most natural leg speed, the 1500-meter runner is going to win this. And it's sort of not how it really is. It's like, no, but you have 25 and a half miles on your legs. It's not the speed you're looking for. But I also do feel like there's been a dramatic shift, and now that's kind of starting to matter more at this point with shoe tech and so on and so forth. Who would you pick in that, like, head to head? Obiri, Hassan, quarter mile to go. Just knowing what you know. I mean, I guess obviously it depends on conditions and how the race played out, but where would you put
I mean,
your
that's
money?
gonna be such a tight finish. And before I used to think like, yeah, your track times don't really matter. I mean, they do, but not really when you're like dying and gutting it out over the last 800 of a marathon. But it does seem like it's mattering more and more. And it's not even like that you're the faster one. It's that you're able to shift gears and like flip that,
Yeah.
flip it.
Right.
And so they both have that ability though. I think this could be set up to be like, this could be one of the more interesting events at the Olympic Games is a rested Safan Hassan. Please, Safan, show up rested. Don't run the 10 and the 5 and the 15 versus Obiri, because they've both shown that ability. And that was what Obiri was good at in the track in the 5,000 is she was a kicker, right? But that's exactly what Safan Hassan is too, is a kicker. So it's hard for me to imagine. I think watching World Championships this year gave me a slightly different perspective, but watching Safan Hassan in Tokyo when she decided to go, it was just so dramatic. It was like she went from kind of like being small to just opening up, like looked like a completely different athlete. It's hard for me to imagine when she opens up like that anyone can match that. But Obiri is insanely talented herself. And she's definitely, I do think she's a stronger-ish runner. She also has cross-country background. And so I don't know. It's going to be good. What would you say?
Well, I was just going to throw in another factor, and that's Asefa, who set the world record. Like, I mean, if you have that sort of pace in your legs, do you even let this come down to a kick, or you're like, well, I'm a 212 runner.
She is not going to outkick either of them. She's not going to,
like,
right? That's not in her skill set. So she's going to, I mean, maybe it is, but we haven't seen it anywhere. We just see her start the race and be like, see ya. Right? So if I was her, you have to just, if I was her, I'm not waiting to be outkicked by either of those women. I'm just going.
remembering that, but maybe I'm remembering this wrong, but I think she started out as like an 8 or 1,500 meter
She
runner.
ran the 800 in Rio at the Olympics. So
It's
she
just bizarre.
it's super bizarre.
Why? What's
I
going
don't know.
on?
I don't know what's happening. The sport's just in such a crazy place. And
Yeah.
then on the men's side, could we see someone? I've read this crazy stat that Calvin Kiptum, in less than a year, ran 3 marathons. His debut was last year in Valencia, maybe, and then his next 2 marathons, he won them all. But then in that next marathon, he perfected a little bit more, and then obviously the third one at Chicago, he broke the world
Right.
record. So in less than a year, he went from a never marathoner to undefeated and world record holder. What's happening?
That's incredible.
It is incredible. And what will that showdown look like? I think that's what marathon fans on the men's side want to see. Kipchoge versus Kiptum, right? That's what we want to see.
Oh, 100%. I mean, the thing with Kipchoge is it's going to end at some point, right? Like
Right.
he's just there's nothing really for him to prove.
Right.
I mean, I guess if he wants his world record back, but like at what point do you just not have the pop in the legs? That's going to happen. That's just inevitable. Um, but experience in the championship races in summer conditions on the biggest stage, like he has all that, and he's done this
Mm-hmm.
time and time again. For a young guy like Kiptum to go and get it right in the first try would be incredible, but obviously he's done that 3 times in a row, so why would the Olympics be any different? um, and then it's always, I think the sport has changed and moves so fast now. Like, who's to say there's not the next Kiptum waiting in the wings that we don't even know about yet? And
Right.
will that type of person be selected? um, who knows?
Right.
Have you kept up
They
on any of the selections?
Well, I read some of the selections, but they listed like 8 people, right?
Yeah.
So it was like, oh, we're going to pick from this pile of 8 people, and that's not helpful. I need to know now.
Yeah, we want to talk about it on the pod.
Yeah, come on.
Kenya and Ethiopia, please pay
Tell us your
attention.
people. That's one thing people should know. So the US obviously does a trial system where the first 3 people across the line, assuming they meet all the standards, are going to the Olympics. But Kenya and Ethiopia, they do a strict selection process. Like they decide, there's a committee who decides who's on the team. And what they did for World Champs this past summer is they sent 6 men and 6 women to this training camp. They watched them at training camp. They trained together. They became true team. Well, Ethiopia anyway. This is Ethiopia. They actually kind of became teammates, and then they selected the top 3 that were performing well at camp. So they have a very different system. And Kenya just makes a list of people and basically right at the end of it just decides. So you're
Do you?
kind of stressed to kind of keep showing
Yeah.
to keep showing up and keep racing and keep like trying to make a case for
Statement.
yourself.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
was gonna say. I like, if you're Helen Obiri, do you feel like you've proven that you should be on that team? Like,
If
I
I were
mean,
held, yeah, I see what you're saying. Because she's won 2 marathons, but they weren't necessarily super fast.
right?
If I was Helen Obiri, I'd be trying to look for a half marathon to just absolutely rip. Just say, like, these were technical championship style races. I won them both. These were difficult courses. Paris is going to be difficult. 2 boxes checked. Now let me show you that I'm still super, super fast too, right?
Yeah,
And then she goes and rips some half marathon. What would you do?
I think that that's really smart. I don't know. I'd probably just lay in the fetal position and cry. Like, please pick me. I hope they pick me. I don't know what to do here. Because, like, for her, like, you're a defending champ in Boston. You probably want to go back and defend. Not saying that's what she'll do, but, and then you don't know, there's no guarantee you're going to go rip a fast one. Like,
Right.
maybe that doesn't suit her. She goes and tries to rip a fast one in London and has to DNF, or has it go a little bit slower than she, and then all of a sudden she loses a lot of clout in this
Mm-hmm.
conversation. So I agree that a half would be a really great way to do that. So kudos for that thought, because that wasn't even on my radar, because I don't think the half has much to do with the full, but I also don't necessarily know that the group selecting would think of it that way.
Yeah. I mean, Team Kenya, it's so difficult.
Yeah.
It's just so hard. I mean, I feel like, and same for Team Ethiopia, like, how do you even begin to, I mean, 2:15 is going, right? You got to put 2:15 on the team. Or no, I'm sorry. What did she run?
211.
2:14? 2:11? Oh my God. Oh my God.
211:58 or
Oh
something.
my God.
Yeah. Don't cry. I know.
I was still stuck in Paul Radcliffe's time, which still seems outrageously fast.
Yeah, it's
I
funny.
apologize. You're putting 2:11 on the team. Yes. Well, the
Yeah.
former world record holder, second fastest of all time, Bridget Koskei, right? Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
She ran in Dubai this weekend and ran 2:19. I'm like, well, sucks.
Have fun staying home. Not
Like,
good enough.
that's how we've gotten where it's like, oh,
Yeah.
2:19. Oh, I don't know. That's not that good. It's crazy. Yeah, 2:11. I cannot believe that. I mean, 2:11 has to be on the team, right? You have to put her on the team, right?
Yeah. I mean, for sure. I would.
Yeah. I mean, I
I
feel
think
like
that
she
would be
made her case.
the easiest pick for me. Unless she's hurt. I don't know. I think even if she were hurt, I'd be like, you know what, you kind of earned that. You
Right.
go.
It just, these, for some of these countries, because of their selection process, it's just so hard. It's
Yeah.
just so hard. Then you have someone like Gade who's getting better with each marathon she runs and she's learning more. So she's on this upward trajectory, but she hasn't, but she's only run
216.
2:16, right? So it's like, do you put her on knowing that she's gotten better every marathon and she's,
She's
it's,
also run a tough course. Like she
yeah.
managed, I mean, whatever, it was a slower race, but it was a race and she managed really well. You
Hmm.
know, didn't get the win, but she was runner up.
Yeah.
And in Paris is going to be tough. Like that course looks not brutal, but it's not like not pancake flat.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that's going to be a fun thing to watch just because there's challenges on it. It's not Valencia. It's not
Right.
London.
There's no rabbit pulling you through
Yeah.
everything. You got to think and you have to react and you have to be able to read people. And you have to be able to know, you have to be good with yourself to know
Right.
what's too hard, to know what's unrealistic, to know when to wait, to know when it is, like that's a skill. And this is me on my old soapbox again. That's a skill that I think a lot of athletes have lost. They're so dependent on their GPS telling. Your GPS should not tell you if you're doing a good job or not.
Yeah.
It can be a little hint, a little guideline, but
Yeah.
you have to be able to feel it. If you can't tell when your lungs are fluttering and you're over pressing too hard, then that's on you. You got to figure that stuff out. The GPS can only tell you so much. You have to know yourself. And I'm done.
Kids, young
Kid-
athletes, just play that
yes.
back. Take a
If
couple
I'm your
seconds, play
coach, you're
that
going to
back.
hear that from me all the time. Take that
You
watch off and feel
yeah.
it.
It's
Yeah.
it's it can be a crutch, but you don't want to become
Hmm.
dependent on that.
Right.
I fully agree. Um yeah. Well,
Okay. Well,
I
no, we can't quite move on yet
okay, sorry.
because people are
Go.
going to want to know what your thoughts are. My thoughts for my athletic ability moving into 2024 is to run a little bit more, fall a little bit less, whatever, yada
How
yada. But
goes the
people,
rehab? How's yeah, you've been on the
it's
lever machine?
yeah, I've been on the lever. I'm 5 weeks out today.
Okay.
I've done 3 full body weight runs. One that was 2 miles, one that was 2 and a quarter, and on Friday I ran 4 miles.
And how you feeling today?
I feel good. My leg was sore Friday afternoon, so I'm gonna try again outside tomorrow.
Mhm.
But today I did 7 miles at 85% body weight.
What? Cranking.
Yeah, well, it's a lot easier when you take significant poundage off. But that system
Can of
has like
worms. Can
literally saved my life. So thank you, Lever. They don't sponsor me or anything, but it's been huge for me, and I really really appreciate them letting me use it. It's been great. So anyway, my hope is to just, keep running, fall less, run a little bit more. But people are going to want to know when you're looking ahead to 2024. Obviously, you have the Olympic trials and decisions will be made after that, depending on if you make the team or not. But just broad picture, what do you think when you look at 2024? What are you thinking about?
boy.
Or do you have anything on your mind
Feels
after
like
February 3rd?
I just paused and there was like a little fly going around my brain. It was like rivers. Um, no, I need to get focused. I got February for sure. And then I'll make some big decisions about the spring. And then I really thought hard about comrades this year. I was like, this is my year. I think I'm going to do it. And then there was a little wrench that happened there. So I don't think it's going to be this year, but that's definitely like soonish.
Yeah.
And then the fall will be a time to really decide if it's like another marathon or do we want to get on some different surfaces and do some different distances. But I think that'll all be figured out in the summer. And honestly, hopefully, I'll just be busy this summer because I'm in Paris.
Yeah, that's right. No decisions will have to be made.
Yeah.
When you were saying all that, I did think of someone that we need to shout out because she had an
Ooh, go.
epic summer. Courtney Dauwalter.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Like it's funny that we never really talk about her because it's just so insane and she's so good. And I feel like sometimes we take her for granted as fans of the sport, but she just had an incredible summer winning. She won, help me out here. She won Western States, Hard Rock, right? And then
UTMB.
UTMB, like all in a row. And it's just,
Yeah.
I think like everyone's always like, oh yeah, Courtney doing Courtney things, Courtney. That's just how
Like,
she is.
but
But it's
what
like,
are those Courtney
yeah,
things? Like,
if
they're
you
fucking
really think
insane.
about it, yes, it is mind boggling what she's done. And it's super impressive. And yeah, just you talking about different surfaces and talking about what's the race in South Africa?
Comrades.
Comrades, like that just made me think of her. But I love Comrades for you. That's a race I always wanted to do. I think it would be really fun and it's super embraced and I think you could crush that.
I feel like Comrades is the Boston Marathon of ultras.
Yeah.
If I were like kind of distilling what it means. But maybe
Yeah.
I'm totally wrong because I'm not really in the ultra world. But it's still in the roads, so I think that
Yeah.
would help me a little bit. We did shout out Courtney, and I'm not against doing it again, but I am going to give us a little credit on that because
Yo,
I
okay.
think we were pretty wowed by that this summer. And still, like, you're right. Courtney doing Courtney things is not really enough. Let's
It's
find
true.
better
It's
ways to express that.
yes. And I can't remember which one she talked about how she was struggling from the very beginning. Maybe it was Hard Rock. Um, but as a person who's run one ultra marathon that was only a 50K, it's it's so hard and the darkness is so much in your mind. Like it's so much in your mind of like you don't need to do this, there's nothing you have to prove here. So to see her run 100 miler and win it and I don't know, probably set a course record while being in that dark place, it's just, I mean, if we could all have a little piece of her brain, we'd be so much cooler.
We'd all be Courtney doing Courtney things.
All right. So anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you. So Des
No,
is
that
going to
was
go hopefully to Paris, but you have a lot
yeah.
of things that you're considering if you're not in Paris.
I think I'm going to go to Paris no matter what. I literally just sent a text today and was like, I'm going to book a place and then, hopefully I'll be busy because I'm running a marathon. But if I'm not busy, I'm going to go and be a spectator of the Olympics because there's going to be some amazing races. And then my hope is that I'm putting that out there and someone will be like, oh, while you're in Paris, why don't you do this for the brand? And then I'll be like, sure. And here's my bill. So I'm
And
going to book it all now.
NBC, Becky Chapman at NBC, if you're listening, if Des
There you go.
doesn't make the Olympic team, we could call the Olympic marathon together.
Just
Just
putting that out there.
saying.
Putting that out there.
Just saying. Yeah.
That wouldn't be a bad
Cool.
time. So yeah, I think that would be fun. I prefer to be competing, but what a spectacle! I think Paris is going to be amazing. I think they're going to do an awesome job. I think that people forget that July in Paris, August in Paris is really hot.
Really hot.
And I was talking to Bonnie Ford about this, just a little bit with the start time with the trials, yada yada. We're not going to get into that, but like she was like, yeah, Paris doesn't have any air conditioning. So there's like it's really hot and there's no relief. And I was like, that's such a good point. Like cuz I don't know, we get comfortable here. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh, well, yeah, it might be warm, but we're going to do this, that. We're going to have the ice vest. It's like, you're just going to be hot the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like heat prep for Orlando is going to be important. And having a game plan there to take over to Paris is going to be valuable. So that's my
That's
two
like a
cents.
really good point. And when the World Championships were in Eugene a couple summers ago, the athletes, not the American athletes, they were put up in a hotel, but the other athletes were put up in the dorms and they did not have air conditioning and it was hot. And so that's something to think about and consider how much time it takes your body to adapt to that kind of stuff. If you make the team, you should be really thinking about that kind of stuff. I know I'm not making the team, so I'm not going to think about it. And I'm pretty sure the Novotel has AC, but now I'm worried, so I'm going to double check. But
You need to look into that. Look, I'm not trying to stress you out, but like if you're trying to study and you're dripping on your pages,
I
oh my
feel
gosh.
like, not to call anybody I work with divas, but I feel like some of the people I work with could not survive without AC. But I am
You
a
guys
little nervous now.
probably
I'm
have
going to have to check
AC.
that out.
Someone's already made that request for sure. That's
Okay, let's
funny.
move on to books.
Yeah, let's do it.
You wrote a New York Times best-selling book this year.
So did you.
Oh, wow, thanks.
Yeah, yes.
Let's talk
I
about
feel
that
like
experience.
yeah, I feel
Go
like a
ahead.
little bit of the podcast was kind of thinking about the books and like making sure that we got the right audience. And
Mm.
I feel like we don't talk about this enough, but like lifting each other up. Like, hey, I have this audience and you have your audience, and they're both really big, but the overlap is like, if we made a Venn diagram, it's pretty small. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
want your book to succeed, and I think you want my book to succeed, and let's like put our audiences together. And it started with books, I think, to a degree, and then it was like, oh, this is really great for the sport as a whole. Like, we can talk about track, we can talk about road running, we could talk about issues in the sport. And I just want to applaud us a little bit in terms of like, not, I don't feel like we've ever been like, well, that's my audience and I don't want to share it.
No,
Like, it's
I
really been
felt
like, let's lift people up.
I agree. I felt so much support from you for my book. And it wasn't like any weird, but I'm going to beat yours or anything like that. I felt like you genuinely cared so much and wanted it to do well. And I genuinely was so excited about your book doing
Yeah.
well. And I loved reading it. Like, I genuinely loved reading it. And that's like, I have a little bit of a bitchy heart because it got broken.
Fair.
And
It's
I
guarded, right?
Yeah, it's a little guarded because I think I used to just be so trusting. I actually am trying to get back more to just like not assuming everyone is going to be mean. I actually feel like I've made great strides, but I feel like you've like ungrinched my heart a little bit. Like, really, you've been like such a good friend, like like totally supportive of my book before we really knew each other as well. So supportive of my family. Like, it's just been awesome, and like my heart's a little less bitchy. Thanks to
mine's
you.
mine's equally, it didn't budge on the bitchiness. I'm like, what's the angle, yo? Like, what do you want? But I'm still trying. No, I feel the same way in terms of, I think that when you have success or you get to a certain place, I'm going to regret how I put this, but I'm going to just say it anyway. I'll probably text Chris later and be like, can you delete that? But it's like, you just like, there's a point where you're like, everyone wants something. Like, what do you want? What's the agenda? What are you trying to get from me? Fine. I'm happy to help. But also
Yeah.
I want this. And I've never felt that in the podcast or in the promotion of the book. So again, I guess kudos to us for, I think
I
there's a
know.
level of trust, and but also
Yeah.
like this, I think the stories are really good and they're really important. um yeah, and I mean, we've done our work for it, but they've also just done really well on their own. They're thriving. Like, the word of
Yeah.
mouth and like people talking about them, engaging, knowing the issues and getting some learnings from them has been cool to watch.
Was there anything surprising about after your book came out, or any emotions that you felt or anything like that that you weren't expecting?
Just pure exhaustion.
Yeah.
Like, I
Again, to
think
shout out that freaking Boston Marathon you ran after traveling, that's insane to me. But
that
anyway,
was,
yes.
yeah, I mean, I think just like the promotion of a book is really, really hard. And you think like writing it was really hard, but it was very fun. And like I liked going through the stories and digging into, memories. I would imagine your process was a little different. Um, but probably, when you get to the end of it, you're like, okay, I feel like really proud of this. I've done good work here. So I love that part. The editing, not so much, but you you get through it, and then you're done, and you're like, all right, I got this book. It's going to go out into the world. And then you go back to work, and it's like, oh, this side of it is so much harder. That's kind
Hmm.
of how I felt about it. How about you? Surprising things, moments that you enjoyed, stuff that you would do differently?
I don't know if I'd do anything differently. I had so much anxiety the night before it came out. I was like, why am I sharing all this stuff? Like, this is my own, like, really, really personal stuff. But I think the one thing that maybe surprised me was just how calm I felt the day it came out and how calm I have felt since. And obviously, I share about some stuff that happened between Alberto and I that, like, I felt really embarrassed about for a really, really long time, like my whole life, basically, that after it happened. And it's not that it's like, oh, now I'm over it, because I think it's always going to be hard for me, but I don't feel embarrassed anymore. I don't feel like, I don't know, it doesn't weigh me down like it used to. I might
Mm-hmm.
have already said this on the podcast, but I started grinding my teeth in 2006. And in therapy, I realized why, the timing. And I've had a mouth guard since then, and I don't grind my teeth anymore since the book came out. I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking 19 years of, no. My math is so bad right now. Oh, 6 to 2020 is 14, 17 years of grinding the crap out of my teeth. And now I just don't. So for me, it's been, I wrote it because I wanted to tell my side of the story. I wanted to see if I could help people, but it's had this kind of, I don't know if the right word is selfish, but like it has helped me immensely to move forward in a space where I'm not carrying around someone else's shit anymore.
Yeah,
So that
that's great.
surprised me because I thought there would be more embarrassment and uncomfortable conversations where I'm just like, whatever, that happened. I put it out there. It's not going to own me anymore. And so that's been fun. I mean, good.
How was the media portion for you? Like answering really tough questions and kind of reopening topics that, I mean, not super comfortable. Like, did you get comfortable with it, or is it the same kind of process where you're like, okay, like I view this totally differently now?
Yeah, I think like, I mean, I did this. I flew to New York and filmed with Good Morning America before it came out. And that was really uncomfortable. And I knew, like I knew that they were going to talk about mostly the sexual assault. And I knew that, but I still hoping we'd talk about like other stuff. And so I think that experience, not that it was bad, it was just like really eye-opening of like, okay, yep, that's what the media is going to focus on. And People Magazine did a story on it, and that was like the main focus. And I understand, but for me, that's like part of the reason I never wanted to talk about it, because I don't want to be seen as someone that happened to. Like that's just something that happened in my life. It's not has nothing to do with who I am. But I think I found out early on, like, oh, that's where most people are going to focus the attention, and I just had to be okay with it, because otherwise, like, I can't
Right.
control what they're going to focus on. It is a part of the story, and so I think what was good is I got that little taste when I went to New York to do that story. And I was like, okay, I'm prepared. This is what they're going to be talking about. This is what's going to be everywhere. And I had to be okay with that. And that's something that, like, obviously I'd been in therapy and stuff. I just never wanted to be seen as a victim. And this is not against anyone who does, but I don't see myself as a survivor. I just don't. And it's, again, everyone deals with everything differently. So I am not saying that's bad.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my biggest thing, was like, even people like you, like that I care, like I actually care about what you think. Like I care
You
about what my
shouldn't.
friends think. I know most people I don't, but like people that I actually care about, I didn't want them to look at me differently anymore, or look at me like with this tender heart of like, oh, I can't believe that happened, or you know what I mean? And so that's, I think, a lot of the reason why I never talked about it, because I didn't want that kind of attention from it. But I think the only way to really not let it control me anymore, was to just deal with it and put it out there. And then now it isn't something that's controlling me. I say, so this is a really long way of saying, like, I think that was my fear, was that
Yeah.
people were going to treat me differently, like kid glove me and see me as this like victim. And I've been really happy that at least the people that I care about still treat me like shit and throw shit back at me. Success.
No kid gloves for you. Boom, boom.
That's been great. That's been great for me because it made me realize, like, I was afraid of I didn't need to be afraid. My friends are my friends. They love me for me. They don't, you know what I mean? Like, they're sorry that happened, but that's has nothing to do with what they care about me or how they think about me.
Oh, 100%. Right.
Yeah.
What story from your book would you like to be the centerpiece? Like, if you took all the other stuff out, like, what's the thing that you're like, this is what I would want to sit down and talk about that no one asked because they wanted to focus on this other thing?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because, as you know, you went through the editing process. Like, there was a lot more stories about my upbringing and my high school experience that were edited out because the book was really, it changed from, it was an autobiography, of course, but it changed from that to really being about like overcoming. Like, most of the stories were about overcoming. So I wish,
Yeah.
like, sometimes I think about, like, oh, I wish I could just write another book that's just all happy stories, because there was a lot of happiness in my life, even
Yeah.
in those times, and I think some of that stuff was edited out, not because just because, like, it can only be so long. But
Right.
yeah, there was so many good times. There's so many good times and happy times. And like, I love that I got to do that for a living. Like, I really do. And it sucks that some things turned out the way they did, but I'm also really proud that the program that I went through, it no longer exists because I spoke out about it.
Yeah.
So
I
I'm
think
proud
it's
of that.
great. I think
Yeah.
that, I mean, a lot of the stuff is super hard, but I think it was eye opening to people. I think you're right that the program doesn't exist, and like it created change, which not a lot of books about an individual create change. You're like, this is a vanity project about myself. Me, my book. But you're like, this changed things in our industry, or this, helped young kids getting into professional sports. Like, it changed the future for them. That's cool.
Yeah.
That was cool to
What
see.
about you? I know that, like, the excerpt you had in Runner's World was about when you saw the endocrinologist and you got a second opinion. I know that you were probably worried about people reading about that part, but I love that you were super honest in your book. Did it, was there anything about that was negative? Sharing that part,
Um,
sharing your diagnosis?
I'm not that I noticed. I mean, I'm sure that someone somewhere thinks less of me because they're like, "Oh, you're on thyroid medicine," and in our sport, we think about it this way. Um, but I feel like they probably just didn't read the whole thing because
Right.
I felt like sharing blood values and a lot of the symptoms, and to me, that was like, there's a very real difference between having a condition and seeking out someone who's going to tell you have a condition so that you can be on something that might help you do something.
Right.
Those were
Right.
very different.
Those are different. Yeah.
So putting that down and just sort of, um, yeah, getting that off my chest was like kind of a relief. And I'm sure someone somewhere thinks negative, and that's okay too. But the
Well, they're
flip side of it
uneducated.
for what's that?
They're uneducated then, but that's fine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the flip side of that is like, I think that there are people, I mean, when I think about athletes, like they're kids, like they're pretty young. It's like there's probably someone somewhere who's out looking for a diagnosis so they can take
Yeah.
some thing, and you're like, okay, but here's the other side of it, is like, when you're done using this for this performance enhancement, like, you're gonna have this condition, and this is what that looks like, and it's really fucking hard. So I don't know, maybe just a little different perspective on it. Like, is this really what you want to do? Is this the path you want to go down? Because the consequences are tough.
Yeah.
Anywho.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. It's interesting looking back because, like, my book was, and still Mary and I was like, this is like a love letter to running. Like, I love running, and I want that to come through in the book, no matter how many stories we tell that are hard to read. And so I do feel like that came through, and I feel like that came through in yours too. There was a lot of stuff that you went with. I was shocked of everything that was going on in the background when you won Boston. I
Oh
couldn't
yeah.
believe it. And I had like, I can sense things like after the race based on interviews. I was like, something's not right there. And I remember you showed up to some race and raced in just a Brooks uniform, not a Hanson's uniform. I was like, something's going on. But like, I cannot believe you performed the way you did with everything that you had going on. And yet, like, I know that you say that you have a love-hate relationship with running, but like your love of it really does remain. And it's awesome. And I'm just going to pour one more love on your book because I
Okay.
have to. I love the way you laid it out. It was
I
just
liked it a lot.
so great. It really was. It was so clever and so good. And if you haven't read it, you're dumb, but read her book. And I love the way that it was laid out. I love the going back and coming back to the race. It was super cool.
You know what's really fun about that? I will toot my own horn there. Is that if you don't want to read about me and the rest of my life, you could just go and read the race chapters. You know, if you're like, well, she's kind of boring. I don't really think this is interesting. I just want to read about a race. Like, you could
You
just
could
read
do
the
that.
race
You could read the
chapters.
shorter
Yeah, you
version.
could
Just read every other
choose your own
chapter.
adventure. So there
Yeah.
is that.
Okay, so what are the odds that you write another book?
Oof. It depends on a lot of factors. I would do it. Yeah, I think it's a fun process. I think that there's still more stories to share. I think that I'm doing stuff in my career now that are like, it's just like interesting little nuggets, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
It's whether or not those would pull together to be a book. So stay tuned. See how interesting my life is the next couple years. How about you?
Yeah, it's
On the
kind of the
mic, Carrie
same-ish.
Goucher on the mic.
I mean, I feel like I've told the hard stories, and there are some
Yeah.
good stories, but I think, I mean, the reason that I got through everything and still love running and I'm still married is because I have great people around me. So, like, I'm a very happy person. I don't know what there's more for me to talk about right now, but if there was at some point, if I had a cool co-author or a cool person to work with, yeah, I don't think I could do it on my own.
The
I learned
Nobody
that throughout this
Asked
whole
Us.
process.
The Nobody Asked Us book
We
of
should do
things
a
that
no.
nobody
We
asked
should.
us.
That'll be it, Des. All the things that we know we are a little nervous to talk about on the pod, we'll just write it in a book and just burn our careers.
Ooh, yeah. That'll be the end of the pod. We'll just drop the book.
Yes. Okay. Well, I
Right.
feel like we should probably wrap this up.
Should we do a top five, end of the year top five, or do you want to wait? Because I think next year, top five is going to have a little pop to it.
Yeah, I still think we should do top 5.
Okay, go for it. Do all five, please. I'm just kidding.
No, I have 2, and neither of them are about me, but 2 of
Okay.
my favorite moments this year. One, you breaking the Masters record. Because it's fun to have a friend that has such a goal that they care about so much. And it was cool to be like excited for you, but also like sick to my stomach for you. But like in a weird way, that felt good. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I was so
you were
invested.
invested.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed that. And that kind of goes along with my number 2. My friend Sarah Baldwin is a single mom in Duluth with a preschooler. She's a lawyer. She has a million things going on. And she had this goal to run the JFK 50. She lives in Duluth. It's not like the easiest climate to always
Mhm.
train in. Anyway, she freaking nailed it about a month ago, just crushed it and finished the JFK 50.
Dang.
So you two just really, and again, I was like nervous for her because her last training run didn't go that well. And I'm like telling her, everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. But inside I was like, oh my
Is it
God,
gonna be
please
fun?
let her do this, So again, that feeling of like being invested in someone else and them seeing it through, it was just really fun. So those are, you don't have to say anything about me. Okay. This is just genuine. Like that, you breaking that record and Sarah finishing that race were just such awesome running related moments for me this year.
Well, that's just not even fair.
Yeah.
But
Cause I don't run. So there you go.
no, okay. But as I was thinking about that, I was like, what could I say about Kara? Shit, I didn't even think about any of these top fives. I didn't even want to play this game. But I will say, okay, for me, it's been following Colt's career, his very young career, just the energy and the passion and the love for the sport, his improvement, and then watching you like totally geek out about it, but try not to geek out about it. Like, look, I don't want to push him. Like, you're like, just like parenting, but fan and like not coaching, but like kind of wanting to, have input. like the balance of that has just been really fun to watch. And like, obviously I ask about it every time we do the podcast because I'm genuinely pretty fascinated and interested in it. And it's cool to see like a young kid just bring love to the sport. And I hope he always has that. But at the same time, like if you were like, you know what, Colt doesn't want to run anymore. He wants to be a drummer in the band. I'd be like, that's really cool. Like, tell us about band. Like, so it's,
Yeah.
I'm just
I
like,
love that.
love hearing Colt stories. And you posted this picture the other day, and I comment on your stuff all the time. I'm like, I need to stop because it's funny. Um, but it was like little baby pod Colt. And I was like, oh, he's such a little nugget. And now
He
he's like
was
a
such
man. Like,
I
he's not a man,
know.
but he's like a
No, he's getting
boy.
there. Yeah. I
Yeah.
know. It
And
goes quick.
that's been crazy to see because I just remember you holding him up as a pod. So that's um, one of my top fives. So we're at three.
Yeah.
Um, let me think. If you have anything else,
The
please
last
jump
one's really
in.
easy for me, and it's for both of
Okay.
us.
Okay.
So you have to just come
Or do
up
you
with
want to let me
something.
do one? Let me do one more, and then you
Yeah.
punch in the last one because it sounds like it's going to be a good closer. Where mine's just going to be stupid. All right. So number four, I think, is going to be the new family members for the year. I'm going to give Margot and Rivers another shout out because they've been so fun. We lost Atlas early on in the year. I miss him a lot. I miss him a lot these days. I've been thinking about him a lot. And I'm so glad we have Rivers. But to be honest, he doesn't compare to Atlas. Atlas was way cooler. So he's got his work cut out for him. But I do love him. So some cuddlers in the family. I think, does Margot cuddle? Should we
She
get up
likes
in
to
there?
hang out.
Yeah.
Yeah. She likes to hang out. She put her little arm around your shoulder.
That's cool. So yeah, to the new pets in the fams.
I love that. Cheers to Rivers. Rivers is more fun than Margot, but yes, Margot's great too. Um, I'm going to do the last one for both of us. This
All
year
right.
has been so fun getting to know you and just like us getting to know each other better and just having people listen and like on Instagram, like tell us the nicest things about how they enjoy it or they're laughing or this or that, or it got them through a training run or whatever. It's been so cool that we sat in a coffee shop. I don't know, was it September maybe of 2022? And we're like, well, would people listen? And then last December, we recorded 3 episodes and we're like, well, here we go. Let's just put it out there. And it's been so fun to see it grow into something that people are listening to and people like it. And it's been fun. It's been fun.
Yeah. Yeah, this is like the one thing that like it's work, but it never feels like work, and I hope it never feels like work.
Yeah.
So, cheers to that.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. And we'll see you next year.